I don't want a new job. I want a new life. And it's not vacation. I think this is actually one of the trickier things about being a nomad. So you have to love this lifestyle so much that it doesn't seem like it's a sacrifice.
Check out my interview with blogger and author Alexis Steinkamp. She's been a nomad for over 8 years now, and she's been doing it for a lot less money than you might expect. Basically describe yourself as a nomad.
Yes, okay. I'm a nomad. Right. I've been traveling for 8 years.
Okay, so what does it mean to you to be a nomad?
Well, I do not have a permanent residence, although I do have a storage locker. I would say I aspire to be a slow-mad.
Okay.
But sometimes I'm moving so fast, I'm like, oh, I'm not really slow-madding right now.
So how long have you been traveling?
8 years.
In 8 years, how many places have you been?
I've been to about 150 places.
Is that like 150 countries, 150 cities? How do you think about that?
I think about it as 150 stops. I usually have, in order for me to call it a stop, I usually sleep there. Rough estimate, 400 beds.
How long do you like to stay in one place? Do you have a particular amount of time you prefer, you think is the best for this?
I figure out what places I'd like to stay 28 days. 28 days is when you get the discount on Airbnb. That really allows me to see a place that's a decent size. Like you can see a city in 28 days. Something smaller, a place with 30,000 people, maybe there won't be so much going on.
So how do you plan your year when you know that you're going to be traveling?
I think it's very important to sort of have the right attitude about this. I am not thinking about this like, oh God, how am I going to fill my year?
Yeah.
I look back at what happened in the previous year and I think, okay, what went right? What maybe would I change? Mm-hmm. And then I set out to make the most magical year ever. What could I do that would be really amazing for next year? Mm-hmm. So that's what I spend this time, the fall is usually what I'm trying to figure out. Not only how would I make something that was super duper magical, but how would I do it on $24,000.
$2,000 a month. That's
$2,000 a month. Now I know a lot of people, maybe in the United States or in more expensive places like New York, are like, "What are you even talking about? $2,000 a month? That's not even my rent." But that is the price that I've kind of figured out for traveling around to less expensive places. I'm not skiing in Switzerland. I'm traveling to thriftier places, and I'm staying for longer periods of time, and I'm only doing probably 2 transatlantics. So I'm coming over once, and I'm going back once. They always say people, they overestimate what they can do in a day, and they underestimate what they can do in a year.
Okay.
And let me tell you, when I think back to a year, I'm like, I can't even believe all the things I did. I mean, last year, I traveled to, I think it was 5 new countries, a total of 10 countries, stayed in 20 places. I mean, it seems like a lot. And one of the reasons for that is I think when you're traveling like this, every day is so different and quite memorable, and it seems longer. I've been in Florida for 28 days. It feels like a long time. I mean, look, I met people, I made connections, totally, right? Yeah. So, I mean, you really can do a lot when you have some kind of even just a loose plan.
What did you do for a living before you left?
I had a job that I really loved.
Okay.
I was a graphic design instructor at a community college in Chicago, and I also did corporate training.
When you decided to leave, I mean, that's a huge decision, especially if you have a career like that. What inspired you to leave?
I remember the moment that it happened.
I would imagine you'd have to, a big decision like that.
I was talking to my sister, and I was complaining about work. My sister said, maybe you just need a new job. And I put my hands on the edge of the kitchen sink, and I said, I don't want a new job. I want a new life. I don't know if you've ever had these moments, but when the thing actually comes out of your mouth, you're like, uh-oh, now
you're committed.
Now I need to do something.
You said it out loud, another person heard you.
I said it out loud, another person heard me. And my sister's very hold me accountable to everything.
That's great.
That was the beginning of the end of that life, and just me trying to figure out what that new thing was going to be. And I think for me it was just an excitement thing. People say things like, is this all there is?
Sure.
And I think for me, I just wanted something where I had the opportunity to meet new people. I had the opportunity to see new places.
Yeah.
I mean, I've always loved traveling.
Yeah.
But when I first started doing this, I was thinking that I would leave the United States and go looking for a new home. I wasn't pressuring myself to do anything very quickly. Like, it would take me a year. And what I found after the year was I had not found that place. And also, I was really into keeping up this nomad lifestyle.
Yeah.
I didn't start out thinking, when I grow up, I'm going to be a nomad. It sort of came to me like, this is something I could do.
So are you still like open to finding that place, or are you just basically now committed entirely to the nomadic lifestyle?
I traveled to a lot of places that are really beautiful. But when I think about actually settling down, I feel a haze of boredom like come over me. Like, I'm just like, and then I'm like, well, maybe I could stay here for 6 months and then I could leave for 6 months.
If you reflect on that now, after doing it for 8 years, it's night and day. It's completely different. So it's like, going back, what was that like the first couple of months of traveling? How did you feel?
At the beginning, like, I think part of it is I'm a U.S. citizen. I have a perspective of a U.S. citizen, which is that like 10 days is a long time to go on vacation.
Absolutely.
That kind of thing.
Absolutely.
It's not, other countries have different ideas about this. Like the Australians go on walkabout or whatever. They're gone for a year.
Okay, wow.
We don't really,
I haven't even heard of that.
really
it's
do
amazing.
that. Right?
Yeah.
So I think that in the beginning, I was really kind of afraid to leave the United States for a long time.
What was the longest vacation you'd had before you left?
So I tested out, I was in Antigua, Guatemala for 3 weeks. To me, that just felt like the longest time on earth.
3 weeks?
Like 3 weeks.
Yeah, they say that's how long it takes to form a habit. So, I mean,
Right.
3 weeks, you're established.
Right. And I came back, and one of my friends like, did you go somewhere? And I'm like, oh my God. Like, for me, it felt like it was eternity.
Yeah.
But, people went on with their lives.
Of course.
Okay. So after that, I was like, okay, I'm going to try leaving for 2 months. And I went to Ecuador. That felt like I could do this. I could find a place to stay. I could find food to eat.
Yeah.
I could meet people.
Yeah. You could see yourself living like that.
I could see myself living like that, or even like poking around and looking for a place to live. And then when it finally happened, it was actually an interesting situation because most of my existence has been solo travel. When I first started out on this 1 year, I actually found myself in a relationship. And so I went to Canada, and then I met up with my boyfriend in Canada. And that's kind of how the year started.
It's funny. You're the second person recently I've talked to that's mentioned, like, when you start to change to this mindset, you find yourself being more desirable.
Yeah,
it's funny how that happens,
And I think you're more open to like.
Well, I think you're more
change
genuine.
Or whatever, right? And I think I was really happy.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Look, I think I'm really happy now.
Right.
But I think like
people are drawn to that.
Like that optimism of like, I'm gonna clear out my life and start over and do something wild and crazy.
Exactly. People are inspired by that. They want to hook onto it.
Right.
Hitch me to your wagon.
Right. Exactly.
Now, after doing it for 8 years, do you ever find yourself still feeling that same way that you did when you started?
Every once in a while, I have this moment where I was like, oh, it'd be really nice to just have my own place. I have moments like that, but they pass pretty quickly. I have a really hard time thinking that I'm going to give it up. And I think that that's one of the hardest things for people. It's really hard to imagine what it's going to be like because the only thing that they have that's like it is vacation.
Yeah.
And it's not vacation.
Totally.
It is not vacation.
Yeah.
It is a lifestyle. It is way, way different from vacation.
Yeah. I think you hear a lot of people will have this opinion when they first start a lifestyle like this. They immediately think, oh, I love this. This is great. Because at first it feels like vacation.
Right.
And then eventually things start to go wrong and reality sets in that this isn't vacation. You're still alive and still having to be responsible, And it doesn't matter what your lifestyle is. Life's always going to be hard. Just kind of got to pick your flavor, I guess.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that's kind of interesting is that it is work because we're all on a budget, but I'm on a pretty modest budget.
Absolutely.
It takes a little bit of creativity. And the places that I go to are like budget destinations.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Which is, sometimes that's not what you do on vacation.
Better a cheap place than no place at all.
Right, exactly. That's certainly how I have done it my whole life.
Why did you decide to travel instead of just relocating? Because you were going to just pick a place and then you decided, I'm going to keep doing this. Like, what was the reason there that made that mindset change?
I think it was just the experience of trying it out and then just realizing I love thinking about where I'm going to go next. I'm going to have to stop someday, but I don't know.
You know, life has a way of telling you when that's going to happen.
Yeah,
you know,
right.
like
And
you'll stop when you have to. What's the most interesting place that you've been to?
I'm just going to talk about this year. So this year, I would say Tirana was one of the interesting places.
Okay.
But another interesting place was Ljubljana, Slovenia.
Okay.
Which is this adorable, tiny little place. And I don't even know if I would go back there for a month, but it was such a precious, it feels like a movie set, you know? Mm-hmm. Their mascot is the dragons. There are dragons all over the place. There's a castle on top of the hill. And I was like, this is the cutest place I've ever been in. You know, there's this river that
This year.
This river that goes down with all these bridges. And it's really very pretty. It's a place that you don't hear about that often.
Mm-hmm. I've never heard of it.
Right, and
Yeah.
so sometimes those are the places that surprise you.
If you could only pack 3 items to carry with you, what 3 items would they be? Let me tell you my answer. As soon as I heard that, I said 2 pairs of underwear and a toothbrush.
Well, I have this constant thing, which is I look at something and I'm like, can I buy this when I
That's
get
what my
there?
wife said, which is why my
Can I
answer
buy
was
it
so
again?
funny. I'm like,
Okay.
oh, well, obviously you're going to buy stuff when you get there. I'm like, oh,
Right,
see, all
So,
right,
like,
that makes more sense.
I would maybe buy the toothbrush when I got there.
Right,
But the
of
2
course.
pairs of underwear, I'm kind of specific about the kind of underwear I'm buying.
So maybe that's a good one.
And one of the things my friend always says is bring a sweatshirt and an umbrella. But of course, both of those things you can get when you get there.
Well, but you don't want to necessarily be caught without an umbrella, though.
Like on the first day. When I
Yeah.
pack, I always put my umbrella in a place where I
Totally.
can get to it in case when I land, it's raining.
Yeah, it's one of the earliest lessons I learned.
Right, yeah.
Definitely.
Here's one thing I will say about packing, though. The more you pack, I guarantee the less happy you will be traveling. So I have this tiny, tiny roller bag, and then I have a backpack, which I sometimes carry some food and like a sweatshirt and just a couple things in. Mm-hmm. And that's like it. And you know what? I circle around to my storage locker like once every year, once every 9 months. I just tell people like, if it gets cold, you're going to have to buy a couple things, have to buy a couple layers, or you might have to buy a toothbrush or whatever, right?
So you're just pretty comfortable then when you leave to let something go. You're just not going to take it with you. So sometimes you have to buy stuff and then that's just not coming. You just know that.
That's correct. And some things I wouldn't leave without, like this skirt I've been traveling with for, I believe, the entire 8 years.
Wow.
Which is insane.
Is there anything else that you could put on the list of like the entire time I've had this item? That's an interesting point.
I think this may be the only thing.
Okay.
Because
now you have to keep it too.
Things do get worn out because
especially shoes, I bet.
You're wearing them like a lot.
Yeah.
Just because you're traveling with so few things.
Mm-hmm.
I pack for summer, and then when it gets colder, I just wear it all.
Yeah.
I have.
It makes your bag lighter.
It's like I'm wearing some days I'm wearing like a long sleeve shirt with a short sleeve shirt on top of it.
Okay.
It's a little weird looking, but layers. This is the layers.
Do what you got to do.
Right.
It's part of it.
Right.
So are there any places that you don't want to go?
I have been to a couple places where I didn't feel that women were particularly respected.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point because you definitely see female travelers talk a lot about safety concerns.
Yeah, and I think it goes beyond safety
Okay.
to places where I just didn't feel like I was very welcome.
Sure.
As a Westerner, and as a person who is obviously single and traveling without a man.
Totally.
And I don't have a ring on my fingers and that kind of thing. So, and I'd say it's just not that much fun for me. And I like being able to have conversations with locals.
Yeah.
And some local people are really happy to see you and they want to practice their English. They want to ask you a question or whatever. And sometimes the local people are not that happy to see you and you can understand why. Like you've got the situation in Barcelona, which is like kind of out of control, I would go to say. And so I prefer to travel to places where I will be welcomed and accepted. It is somewhat limiting, but mostly what happens is when I go to a place where I feel like other people are welcomed, it's just so nice.
Yeah.
And I think Albania, like, if, people often ask, like, oh, well, were the Albanians friendly? I would be like, totally.
Absolutely.
Totally. I mean, maybe 1 or 2 people out of 100 were having a bad day.
Yeah.
But, like, everyone has just been super nice. And like, I don't speak Albanian. I know like 3 words. So like
flossy sheep.
Right. So like they're practicing their English, or
Sure.
we're all trying, playing charades or whatever, right?
Of course, yeah.
So that's what I would say. Like, it's really nice to go to a place where you feel like you're going to have a good time.
Hey guys, if you like this, consider giving me a subscription. Back to the interview. Are there places that you haven't been to that you want to go to?
Long list.
Long list.
Really
Grows
long
every day.
list. What's happened to me in Albania is I wasn't really thinking about the Balkans that much. But look, once you're in a place, you start hearing about these places that are next door.
Sure.
So like when you're in Albania, people are talking about going to North Macedonia.
Because where the locals go to save money.
Right, and the other thing is, the people, U.S. citizens who have come to Albania for a year, then if they don't get a residency, they've got to leave for 3 months. So where are they going to go? Well, they may go to Skopje for 3 months. Well, Skopje, okay, just so if you don't know, that's the capital of North Macedonia. I certainly didn't know.
Okay.
Right, so then you've got Kosovo, and then you have, Montenegro.
Sure.
So you have these things that are nearby, and you're like, oh, this is how, like, you develop these, like, oh, okay, now you add that. I do have a list of places.
You physically write that down.
Yeah.
You have to, because there's so many.
Right,
Yeah.
there's so many places.
I'd imagine one of the most difficult things for this kind of lifestyle is going to be your relationship with possessions.
I have some things in my life that I really love, but mostly I have the attitude of, I'll take a picture.
If you had to pick like the most important things that you bring, what would you say that those are? We said umbrella, shoes.
Having the right footwear for the amount of walking that I do in any given day is crucial. If there's something that you can't find elsewhere, that's your number one thing.
What's something in your bag that is really useful that might surprise people?
I travel with a wooden spoon my sister gave me. So she was really young. Maybe she was like 10 years old. And she gave me this wooden spoon. And I travel with this wooden spoon.
So this is just probably like a good luck charm. This isn't like practicality.
I use it every day.
For cooking?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So it's a real wooden spoon, and she probably paid like 95 cents for it.
That's hilarious.
And every time I go to leave, I'm just like, okay, don't forget the spoon. Because like, if, a lot of times you're leaving a bunch of kitchen stuff, right?
Absolutely.
Don't forget the spoon.
Being a minimalist and a nomad, how does that affect your relationship with people?
I think this is actually one of the trickier things about being a nomad. Sometimes people treat you like you no longer exist. Like, so for example, like they don't invite you to a wedding. Look, I'd love to come to your wedding. And they're like, well, we just figured you'd be traveling. And it's like, well, like if I know 6 months in advance.
Travel to their wedding.
Right. If I know 6 months in advance, I can be there, right?
Sure.
But like for a lot of these things, you have advance warning, right? And so you could put it on your list. Like for next year, I've got things I'm going to put on my list.
Yeah.
And if one of my sisters was doing something, I would put it on my list and I would get myself there, right? So that's one of the things. And I think the other thing is some people are really good at thinking that when you show up, it's special. Some people sort of forget that you exist. When I arrive in a place, it's interesting to see what people's response is. Sometimes people will be like, oh, I'm glad you're here, and I'll be someplace for 3 weeks and I'll only see them once. And sometimes I have friends who are like, I'm glad you're here. What day are you arriving? Okay, the next day, let's have dinner. We'll have dinner.
Yeah.
Okay, and then I've got this other where I've arranged this card game. Do you want to come for that? That's on the 21st. And they really like suck up like all of you that they can get because they know that you're going to leave.
And that's the actual friend.
I don't want to be too hard on my friends who aren't friends, but like it's a very personal thing. I think some people are kind of upset that I've chosen this lifestyle because
it's funny how people take it personally like that.
I kind of understand too. And one of the things I've noticed is the people that I meet while I'm traveling, well, they all get it.
Do you have any tips or like things that you try and do in order to maintain relationships with the people that are hard to keep up with?
Yeah, I'm really proactive about checking in with people, and
so you just go out of your way, and you.
I really go out of my way, and I think it's like it's a different for every person. Remember, you can call people, you can text people, and a lot of times people are like, oh, well, I know you're traveling. It's like,
they think it's a reason not to talk. It's like, you have nothing but time.
Right. Yeah. It's like, you can call me anytime, even when you're like, you schedule things.
Sure.
It's like you schedule a Zoom or whatever.
Yeah, I talk to friends in the U.S. all the time. You just have to, put a little effort forth, and it's absolutely possible. Completely agree with that.
And I mean, I'm sure you would say that, like, now you make more effort to do these things to keep in touch with these people.
Yeah, and it's exactly what you're talking about, where it's like it kind of indicates to you pretty quickly the people that are going to keep up with you or the people that are going to make an effort to. And you know, I have some friends that might not reach out as much, but if I reach out to them, they're really warm and friendly and receptive. And so it's like, I try not, like you, I try not to take it personally when people aren't meeting me in the middle necessarily, because I realize their middle looks a lot different to them. You know, a lot of people, it's like out of sight, out of mind, or they have these routines and habits, and if you're not there and a part of it, they just doesn't really occur to them as much, you know, and I try not to hold them.
Yeah, and some people are working with kids and all this stuff, and
people
it's just really busy. So you just have to kind of be aware. I had a woman say to me one time that, like, the first thing she asked me when we met was, "What do you do when you feel lonely?" She didn't ask me if I was. She just assumed as a nomad you would feel lonely. And I said, "Oh, I have a strategy for that. I text 3 friends."
Yeah, and one of them will text you back.
And one of them texts me back.
Maybe all 3.
Right, and then be like, "Oh gosh," and then like I'll get a picture of like the snow in Chicago, up like 3 feet deep or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like that's really, I think that it's kind of all it takes. You know, everyone's going to be different, but like having that interaction, that touch, you know, like that touchstone with the people that, you know, you love. So
are there any apps specifically that you think are helpful for keeping up with people or being a nomad, or just stuff that you use all the time? Like, I live by this app.
Well,
so a Translate app probably comes in pretty
handy.
handy.
WhatsApp.
WhatsApp, absolutely.
Is the traveler's app.
So I know it's prominent here. I haven't been to that many places.
Everywhere.
All over the world, it's like that.
And even not with other travelers, like if you're in Colombia, that's what people use.
Oh, that's what people use here.
That's how people call each other.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? You know, I mean, like, it's free.
Yeah.
So that's definitely it. Obviously, you know, I'll use Google Translate on my phone, and I'm addicted to Duolingo. And
they don't have Albanian on Duolingo.
They don't have Albanian.
Yeah, it's frustrating.
I looked it up.
Yeah,
and I was actually really surprised. I mean, you can get Klingon. Come on.
Wow, great.
Right.
What's your problem, Duolingo? How are you compared to the person that you were 8 years ago?
I have moments where I realize and feel, I would say, almost overwhelmed by good luck. I was in Sicily and I went to Taormino, and in Taormino is the Greek theater. And I sat down there. The stage is flanked by these like columns or whatever. Right in the middle of the stage is the view to the volcano. I remember just thinking there and just thinking, God, I'm so lucky. You know, I've seen so many beautiful things, met so many interesting people, like, and this is why this life is just, it's a really hard thing for me to give up. Like, I know it's, even without really planning some things, you know, these magical things just happen to you.
Are there any regrets then around doing this? Because obviously you have to make some sacrifices in order to do something like this.
I have a friend who says, "I'll sleep when I die." You know that attitude?
Yeah, sure. I love sleeping, so that's not my attitude. I'll sleep right now.
I love sleeping too, but I do think there's part of me that when I think about like, oh, it'd be nice to have my own home. Like even coming here, I'm like, oh, this is so cute. You know, like I could live in a place like this.
Sure.
Okay. When I think about having my own home, I think that's something I'm going to do, but I'm going to do it in the future.
Yeah, but and even that, it doesn't seem like you regret not having one. It just seems like something you realize now you want to look for while you continue to do what you're doing, which is travel.
Yeah. And I think one of my things might be, maybe I can find a place where I can have something super small.
Yeah, exactly.
Super inexpensive.
Absolutely.
Where I can just put my stuff and circle back around to it.
So what kind of person do you think is suited for what you do, for becoming a nomad?
I have a friend who says he likes to sleep in his own bed. And I'm like, well, you can't do what I've been doing then, right? You know, for some people, what I do would be a huge sacrifice. But of course, I don't see it that way.
Right.
So you have to like love this lifestyle so much that it doesn't seem like it's a sacrifice.
So you feel like if you were fighting yourself every day, obviously this would
be terrible.
Yeah,
be terrible.
Yeah.
And I think that there are some real practical things. Like you have to be a person that's super flexible because sometimes your plans have to change. If you have like your favorite cheese and your favorite shampoo and your favorite hair gel and your favorite whatever, wow, that stuff can be really difficult to find on the road.
Or expensive.
I mean, even some things like I love artichoke hearts, and when I find them, I'm like, wow, that's really expensive. And I'm going to buy it anyway.
Yeah, sure.
But like some things you just can't find.
Yeah.
And so you really have to be flexible. And I think you have to be a person who, when it's available, you do it. Like, When I'm in a place where the kiwi are good, I eat kiwi.
Yeah.
And when I'm in a place where I can get cheap artichoke hearts, I eat the artichoke hearts, right? So there's like sort of a flexibility there. I also think a lot of people do get lonely, and you really have to work hard, even for someone like me. Like, I consider myself a pretty serious extrovert, okay?
Sure.
But even for someone like me, like, I have to psych myself up for things sometimes. It's like, it's 8 o'clock at night. I don't want to go out. I've already walked 20,000 steps, but there's this expat meetup, and I'd really like to go meet some new people. Like, I've got to like kind of psych myself up for that, you know? So you have to be like your own cheerleading squad sometimes.
Very self-motivated.
Yeah, and especially for people who are doing this solo. It's really different to do this as a couple. Like, even if you're with a friend or a partner, right? But like, doing this alone and doing it with a couple, it's a totally different game.
So what do you think are some of the most common mistakes that you see other nomads or people attempting to be nomads make?
I think most people start off traveling too quickly. One of the big mistakes people make is they don't have a big enough cushion. I think you better have a pretty substantial emergency savings fund. Try to do these test trips like, I'm gonna pretend that I'm a nomad. What would I do if I were a nomad? How would I be meeting other people? If you think that you're gonna be living in Airbnbs, get an Airbnb so you can test it out like that. Be as close to what you think it's going to be like. Really think about like the logistics. I think logistics can be really tricky for people. I think of being a nomad as like, you can make it easier or you can make it more challenging. And I kind of have this visual idea of this dial. In my travels, sometimes I'll know I'm going to dial it towards easy. And what that means is mostly I'm slowing down. So I'm going to be in a place that's not too expensive, and I'm not going to have a language challenge, and the money isn't going to be too difficult, and I'm moving slowly. And then there are times, and this is usually when things are more expensive. Like, when I'm in more expensive places, it's going to be a little bit more challenging on me, and that means I'm going to spend 3 days here, a week here, another week, 3 days, and then I'm going to be like, whoa, I've been moving so fast. Now we're going to dial it back, and I've got a month.
You're going to get into like December, you're going to start to book the summer.
You would think that it would be like 3 months in advance, I booked this thing out, but it's actually way more haphazard. It's better to be a little bit more planned than not plan enough.
If you could start this all over again, how would you do it better?
I would have a lot more confidence in myself. People from the US, we have this fear of like something bad's gonna happen and we're not gonna have insurance, or something bad's gonna happen and like I'm gonna have to fly home or whatever. You have to just trust that like you like this stuff and you're gonna go do the things that you like. And I probably would have started a couple years earlier if I hadn't been like, you know, holding off on this. So that's why I think it's important for people, like, if you like this idea, okay, plan something for 3 months from now.
Is there anything that you're working on currently that you'd like to share?
Yes, I am working on the idea of starting a channel on YouTube. And the reason for this is so many people have said to me, you should have a channel on YouTube. Okay.
I think she should.
Right, so there you go.
Yeah.
But the other thing is, when I say to people, I'm a nomad, I've been traveling for 8 years, people have a lot of questions. This would be an opportunity for me to just share some of the answers to the most common questions.
Yeah.
And really help. I mean, like, I was really inspired by watching some videos, so maybe I can inspire the next generation of people who want to do this. Right?
I'm assuming this video, if anyone watches it, or some people will be inspired from hearing this.
Maybe leave a comment.
Yeah, please leave a comment. We would love to hear from you.
Right.
Alexis, this was great. Thanks for being my first guest.
Wonderful.
Hope you enjoyed that interview with Alexis Steinkamp. You can find all of her information for her social media down below, as well as where to find her book. And if you like that, check this out.